What I found was, as a fractional, the big difference, the foundational difference is you're part of their leadership team. You are inside the company. You're on the leadership team. You work with the other leaders and executives. You're not an outsider anymore. You're a part time insider.
You're trying to help your clients grow as a fractional executive, and we're here to help you grow so that they can grow faster too. He's Dean. I'm Atiba. Welcome. Dean, how you doing today, buddy?
Oh, Atiba, I'm great. This is a topic near and dear to both our hearts, so I'm excited to talk about it and share some ideas and also maybe share some pitfalls of like what's not working in the fractional world. It's a new concept. Well, it's a new label, but not a new concept.
Yeah. And so let's just go ahead and start right there, right? It's a new label, but not a new concept. So if it's a new label, is it just a consultant? Are we just coming up with a fancy way of saying, it's kind of like when I remember there was an area that I grew up in, it was called Rockville, Maryland, right? And then they decided to change a piece of it and call it North Bethesda because Bethesda had a higher tax bracket so that they can make it seem nicer. So is this just a nicer way of saying consultant?
Attracting that higher level of consultant, right?
Yes.
Charge more fees with a fancy name. The short answer is really no, right? It's a different way of developing a relationship with your client. It's a different structure to how you scope and price and all of those things. And the big difference is it's a long-term, monthly reoccurring revenue type engagement where, as we all know, consulting is typically project-based. And depending on the nature of the work, some of those projects can be ongoing. But generally speaking, you do a thing, you get paid, and you go look for a new thing. And you're in this cycle. And the fractional relationships, because they're built on monthly reoccurring revenue over the long term, it changes the nature of your revenue as a consultant, as an expert. But it also changes the way you build a relationship with the client.
Yeah. So let's talk about that relationship there a little bit because as a consultant, and I was a consultant for many, many years, the relationship is often combative. Okay. You have the couple people who like you, and those are usually the ones who brought you in, and everyone else who's looking at you and saying you're overpriced and you're here to take our jobs or you're here to tell us that we're bad.
Yeah.
Right.
So
how does the relationship change?
Yeah. And I would add one other thing to that, this old stereotype of, well, consultants come in and just tell us things we already know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what the heck? So the big difference, I think, what to start with, and we can lay out, there's a number of components to this, but the first is as a consultant, you're on the outside. You're on the outside looking in. You've probably got a specific niche or area of expertise, SEO, marketing, sales, finance, whatever it is, software, it doesn't matter. You're looking at that small piece of the business from the outside, trying to solve one specific problem. Get my ERP implemented.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Consultants do that kind of project work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're on the outside. You have a limited exposure to the rest of the organization. You have limited relationships with other leaders within the organization. And so your ability to succeed is really based on your point of contact, your champion.
Yes.
And if they give you bad direction, it's really hard to be effective. And you don't have any decision making. You have very little really authority of any kind, right? You're an advisor, and assuming that client trusts you and wants that advice, then you're good. And you may even not even be involved in implementation, but you may be. So that's the typical consulting relationship, right?
Right.
And I've done it for years. I'm still a consultant with many clients. But what I found was, as a fractional, the big difference, the foundational difference is you're part of their leadership team. You are inside the company. You're on the leadership team. You work with the other leaders and executives. You're not an outsider anymore. You're a part-time insider.
Mm-hmm.
And that fundamentally changes everything. So you're on the inside. You've got a clear objective. And usually consultants are thinking in terms of, even if they help put some kind of a plan or a strategy together, They're tactically oriented. Get these
Hmm.
things done. Whereas a fractional executive, the executive piece is the most important. As a CFO, I wouldn't expect my CFO to be entering accounts payable and accounts receivable in QuickBooks. I wouldn't expect them to be counting inventory on the shelf. I wouldn't be
Right.
expecting them to place orders with our vendors. I'd expect the CFO to do what? Look strategically at the financials, look at the relationship with our banking and our bonding agents and all. They're looking strategically. That's what a fractional's role is to develop a strategy for that area of the business and drive the implementation, but not do the work like the
Mm.
tactical team members would. So that's fundamentally the biggest difference is you're that level and you have that place on around the leadership table that a consultant never would.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this because you mentioned two words that kind of stuck out to me there, which was project work, right? And so would you then say from that strategic perspective and driving the business, as you mentioned there, that as a fractional, you define the projects, the consultant does the project work?
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant way to think about it, right? If you're a consultant, you're probably working with an executive and they're helping you frame up the project. They're going to hold you accountable for the project. They're driving the implementation through you. But as the fractional, you've almost got to throw the word fractional out sometimes and just think of you're the CMO, you're the CRO, you're the COO. You're just doing it on a part time basis, which makes you fractional.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Interesting. So what does it take to become a fractional? And I want to give, if I could, I want to define three different paths. And you tell me maybe one of these paths is better than the other. Maybe some of these paths should never become fractionals. Okay. So you're currently a consultant, you're currently a C suite in a company and leaving there to start your own thing, or you've been a doer middle management type in a company and you're leaving to go do your own thing.
Yeah, great question. Let's break them down, right? I think
Hmm.
there's three opportunities there to dig in. So the first is you're a consultant. It's very hard to sit around an executive leader table, the conference room. You've got all the C suite around the table. Maybe you've got private equity as part of the board and have that conversation, be able to deliver value in that conversation if you've never done it before. So
Hmm.
if you're a consultant that was at a senior management level, you probably have the experience to combine your corporate experience and your consulting experience and be a fractional. And you
Okay.
don't have to, it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. You can do consulting and fractional work, obviously. But it's the key there is that you've been in that role or a similar role before.
Yes.
Okay. And I will say, we're saying executive, and executive is there's different layers, right? You could be, I've seen fractionals at the director, the VP, and the C suite level. So you can be a
Gotcha.
fractional, any of those. Below that, when you get to manager, then you're starting to get into doer kind of work. But director, VP, and C suite. So absolutely, if you're a consultant, you have a huge opportunity if you've got the experience, that level of experience to be a fractional. And we can talk about how you leverage your consulting projects to land fractional gigs
Fractional.
in a bit. The second was coming out of corporate. So you were in this C level role, you were a COO, whatever, right? And you're tired of the corporate grind. Yeah, absolutely. You've got the experience to do it, but do you have the appetite, the chops, the resilience to go out on your own? You had all this corporate structure around you, marketing
Yeah.
dollars and people, and you could just say, go do a thing, and they go do a thing. You're on your own. You're an entrepreneur. You are the chief marketing officer, the chief sales officer, the chief everything in your business, and you have to do work with clients. So I had a conversation with somebody yesterday. She is currently a CFO in a healthcare company and kind of tired of the grind. She's going through an acquisition right now with the company she's with, and she's thinking, what's next for me after corporate? So she's got the technical experience to be a fractional CFO, no question.
Hmm.
Does she have the appetite for the grind of being out on your own as an entrepreneur? That's the part that you have to really consider and know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
So the third example you gave was you're kind of a mid-level manager in a business somewhere, and can you be a fractional? I think it just depends on the level of mid that you're at. Probably not. However, the caveat, the probably not is because you may not have the experience to sit around that leadership table. A
Mm.
caveat there is if you're a mid-level manager in a very large company, you could probably work at a lower level executive in a small business and bring a ton of value because you get to learn at a different rate in a large company. So if you're a Fortune 500, for example, and you're a director or a manager, you could probably come in as a fractional director at a smaller business and bring a ton of value and experience and systems and processes and accelerate their ability to do work. So there's a caveat there, but potentially. And maybe consulting is a better step into the entrepreneurship world first. Do a few projects, get used to working with clients, be out of that corporate environment, and see if it's a fit for you.
So, Dean, it sounds like there's a ton to learn here, no matter which way you come at this,
There is.
right?
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this, and we exist in these worlds, and we've learned things trial by fire, right? We've both played C-suite roles, fractional C-suite roles for people and for clients, and trial by fire is tough. It's tough, right? Is there a shortcut?
There's always a shortcut, right? We know that. The question is it the right shortcut for you? So I've been doing fractional work for over a decade before it was even called fractional. And I actually sort of stumbled across this model when I was consulting. I've been doing B2B consulting for 18, 19 years now, long time. And about a decade in, after the typical consulting project-based work, I'm like, there's got to be a better way, number one. And then when clients consistently came to me and said, we've got this great strategy, this great plan, can you help us implement? And so I was kind of doing it from the outside, you know. And then it occurred to me, well, they need a part-time chief revenue officer. And when I pitched a couple of those, they said yes, and I kind of started doing them. It was fractional before fractional was sexy and cool,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So after, I think it's now 11, actually 12 time fractional now. I've done 12 different engagements over about a decade. And as you said, learned a lot. And what I've been doing in the last 4 or 5 years is coaching other consultants and fractionals to help them grow their business. And I've enjoyed it. It's been awesome, helped a lot of folks, but I can't scale that one on one. So we built a mastermind community called the Fractional Launchpad that is a combination of teaching and community and mastermind to help people that want to really leverage this fractional model grow really quickly. I want to say quickly. As a typical fractional, if you're a full-time fractional, you can probably only handle 3, maybe 4 clients and replace your full-time income and some. So you don't need 50 clients. So we help people get to that point very quickly because we know how to market, how to help them market, how to help them sell it, how to position for price. There's a whole bunch of components that go into it. So yeah, the Fractional Launchpad is our way to help the fractional community grow quickly and not step on the same sort of landmines that I did over the last decade.
Yeah. And that's huge. You know, it's huge to be able to have that place and that resource, because for anyone listening to us, as you step out there for that first time, there is more that you don't know than you do know. And
Yeah.
having this coach and guide would save you decades of pain that Dean and I have gone through
Yeah.
in doing this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The easy part in some ways is doing the work, right? You're an expert, you're a CFO, you know how to do CFO stuff. That's the easy part. It's all the other stuff that leads up to your opportunity to do that and keep the client happy, keep yourself happy, make it feel not like a job. That's the part that people don't even think about. They're like, I've been doing CFO stuff for 20 years. I'm going to go do that.
Yep.
And they look outside and they're like, well, how do I do that? How do I find people that want to pay me money to be their part-time fractional CFO?
Yeah.
That's what we teach. That's what we help.
You know, as we wrap up here, I want to end talking about, let's do this as the next video. Some of those big mistakes that people make, right? Like I was making $100,000 on my job, so I'm only going to charge $45 an hour. And that's my math, right? Let's do another video on that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's great. There are some pricing mistakes that people make that kill opportunities and undervalue their services. So I think that we definitely need to do an episode on that.
All right. So we'll do that for y'all, and we will see you next time. Once again, he's Dean. I'm Atiba. We're
All
here
right.
to help you as a fractional grow your business and help your clients. See you later.
We'll see you next time.